विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरोन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवम् साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्णा कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे साधु साधु सदा हरे कृष्णा. Gopakumara is at the doorsteps of Vaikuntha. Shri Brihad Bhagavatamritam, Part 2, Chapter 4, Text number 32. Bhusha Bhushana Sarvanga Nija Prabhu Virochitaha Pranamantaha Stuvantasya Kurvanashchitramihitam. Offering obeisances, reciting prayers, and doing all sorts of wonderful things. Those devotees, their every limb, lending grace to their ornaments, looked fit to appear before their worshipable Lord. So, Bhusha Bhushana Sarvanga, their every limb lending grace to their ornaments. So, here generally people wear ornaments to look beautiful, but actually ornaments are becoming beautiful by by the beauty of their limbs. That's the meaning. In Bhagavatam it is told about Krishna also, that when Krishna wears all the ornaments, they become beautiful due to Krishna's beauty actually. So similarly here. And another point is how their decoration is meant, the last thing which is mentioned here, looked fit to appear before their worshipable Lord. So all their external appearance, their wearing of ornaments and all, it was not meant for their personal sense gratification, it was meant for the pleasure of Krishna. So Vitanvato Mahalila. In deity worship it is told we should wear good clothes, not torn clothes. Because we are supposed to be servants of the Lord. And so if we are wearing torn clothes, it diminishes the opulence of the Lord. So then it's offense. Vitanvato Mahalila Kautukam Chakravartivat Lakshmi Pater Bhagavata Charanabja Dhadrikshavaha. They extolled the wonder of the great pastimes of the Lord, the husband of Lakshmi, as if his pastimes were those of some all-victorious king. And they were eager to see the Lord's lotus feet. So, Vitanvato Mahalila Kautukam Chakravartivat. Now in Vaikuntha, so their Aishwarya Bhava is there. So he is the king there. Krishna is like a king. But in Vrindavan it is not like that. So he is a covered boy. And he is a dear friend of someone. He is a dear child of someone else. So, or he is a lover of someone else. So like that. But in Vaikuntha, he is like, here is a particularly Chakravartivat. So basically this kind of his appearance brings awe and reverence in the members or residents of Vaikuntha, and they glorify his pastimes like that. So some all victorious king, Lakshmi Pater Bhagavatas Charanabja Didrakshavah. But they were very eager. They were spontaneously attracted to his lotus feet. So they were very eager to see the Lord's lotus feet. So in the Vaidhi Bhakti, this is the difference. There is no eagerness. Vidhi rules and regulations. So Prabhupada in Nectar of Devotion, he says, on the order of the spiritual master, following the rules and regulations of the scriptures. So when we perform devotional service, that is called as Vidhi Bhakti. And of course Prabhupada, he says that there is no question of disobeying the orders of the spiritual master. So Vidhi is like that. At least in Brahmachari ashram we like to train, like, right? Brahmachari cannot say that, oh, I will do this service only, I will not do this service. One day I will not go to book distribution. One day I will go to book distribution. So, like that. Vidhi, rules. But there it is not like that. Once, means going to Vaikuntha means you already have attained Prema Bhakti. So in Prema Bhakti, even before, what to speak of Prema Bhakti, even at the stage of, even before that Asakti stage, we have spontaneous attachment to Lord. They were very eager to see the Lord's lotus feet. Gopakumara was amazed at how these persons conducted themselves. They sang and danced without inhibition, expressing the glories of their victorious Lord. They told one another how their Lord favored his responsible servants by providing suitable homes and fine food and drink. So opulence of the Vaikuntha. Indeed, because Lord Narayana is the husband of the goddess Lakshmi, it is only fitting that he display his sovereignty with such opulence and that his servants share in it. So one point here too is why Kshatriya kings? Because, so why Kshatriya kings exhibited lot of opulence? They lived in very lavishly built palaces. We see now, if you see the old monuments, there are palaces and there are temples. Apart from that, we don't find anything else actually. So there are palaces are there, still there are palaces everywhere you go. Like we go to Mysore here, there is Mysore Palace is there. We go to Bangalore, there is what is that, Summer Palace of Tipu Sultan, whatever. So their palaces are remaining and temples are remaining. So opulence was mostly invested there, in the temples and in the residence of great kings. So nowhere else you won't find some cottage around the temples, which is some few hundred years old or something like that, where. So mostly, and I saw some pictures taken by some British Westerner in mid 1800. So of India, he has traveled all over the India and he has taken those black and white pictures are there. And you can see that Srirangam pictures are there, and around Srirangam, there small huts are there. All these Brahmanas living in huts around. So, but the temples themselves were very opulent. So, temples represent spiritual culture and religious culture, especially spiritual culture. And more particularly, this Vaikunta mood is exhibited there. And kings also, they exhibited opulence, because although now the question why I am bringing up this point is that here the very backbone of Vedic culture is simple living and high thinking. So dharma is sustained by simple living and high thinking, vairagya and vidya in English, in Vedic parlance. So same thing is in English, simple vairagya vidya becomes simple living and high thinking. So the more vairagya and vidya is cultivated, to that extent dharma sustains. Otherwise dharma will not sustain. And you see who is the highest member of the dharmic society? Sannyasi. So he is the highest symbol of vairagya and vidya. He is very renounced and he is a scholar. So therefore, that is how, of course, dharma sustains by Krishna actually. Sustained by Krishna, because Krishna is the father of dharma and Krishna bhakti actually. But the practical manifestation, practical results of that Krishna bhakti or our attachment to Krishna is vairagya vidya. Practical, immediate result of that. So, external result of that is vairagya vidya. If there is no vairagya vidya, there is no question of our attachment is not, or our advancement is. Like we see that verse is there. Janayatyashu vairagyam jnanam chayadaitukam is there. Vairagya vidya nija bhakti yoga shiksha artam eka purusha purana. Then bhakti parishan bhava virakti ranyatra chay shatrika eka khalaha. Like that, those verses are there. So, if the vairagya vidya is the practical symptom of dharma, why this particular class of dharmic society, Kshatriyas, they lived in such opulence? So they lived very lavishly actually. So here we see actually, just like these Vaikunta residents, they are glorifying the Lord, that Lord has provided them, good residence, good food and, drink, etc. So, if king lives in like a beggar, then the citizens won't develop trust and faith in him that this king is going to maintain us actually. Because in the material world, everyone is always concerned about belly. Prabhupada, he says, a human struggle is meant for what? All the human struggle, it's all meant for food, sex, and snoring, he says. So, this is what is human. So, if king doesn't live lavishly like that, if he doesn't exhibit his opulence, so none of the citizens are going to believe in him. So, it can happen even in a temple community or temple. If a new brahmachari, if he is revealed about all the financial difficulties of the temple, then he will run away actually. Or he may not develop trust actually. So anyway, so manager should never reveal economic weakness. That is very important. Of course, we are not talking about brahmachari is supposed to live what is the dedication which is expected from him, that even if he doesn't get food and sleep also, he should live in the ashram of the Guru. That is a dedication which is expected from him. Although managers, from managerial point of view, they would like to provide the best facilities which is suitable for that particular ashram, definitely not. Anyway, kings, that's why they have to show their show their opulence. They have to exhibit their opulence. Otherwise, citizens will never believe in such a king. He will never earn the trust of citizens. But their individual renunciation, Vairagya Vidya, is exhibited at the time. As you see, although they may live in such great opulence, but at the end of their life, they just leave everything and go. They take Vanaprastha, they enter into forest. We see in Bhagavatam all the kings, few maybe exception, except Prahlad Maharaj. So we see Ambarish Maharaj, he was the king of the whole world. And he had already attained perfection, spiritual perfection, by engaging all his senses in the service of the Lord. But when time came, he also took up Vanaprastha. Prabhupada says that it was not required for him, because if you see the description of devotional service of Ambarish Maharaj, so he had engaged all his senses in the service of the Lord. That is a perfection. Iha yasya harer dase karmana manasa gira nikhilas apyavastaso jivan mukta sauchate. Already he is a liberated soul actually. Jivan mukta, because he had engaged all his mind, body, words in the service. Jivan Mukta. So that verse gives the definition of Jivan Mukta, one who is fully engaged in the service of Krishna. So he doesn't have to go to Vanaprastha to prepare himself for liberation. So when time came, they left everything. They left all the opulence and they went. And their wives also will follow in their footsteps. Everyone followed. Even Dhritarashtra, who was a epitome of material attachment, so he also left everything and went. And Gandhari followed him, and they just died by forest fire. So they may live in opulence, but at the end of their life, they reveal their real Vairagya Vidya. So living lavishly and with all the grand arrangement, it is all just to run the society, to earn the. So similarly here, because Vaikuntha, like I said, Varnashrama society is a replica of the spiritual world. We can see those things there also, in their original form. Indeed, because Lord Narayana is the husband of goddess of Lakshmi, it is only fitting that he display his sovereignty with such opulence and that his servants share in it. So text 34. Kechit sa parivaraste, kechit cha sa parichadaha, kechit bahir drashtasviya, parivara parichadaha. Some were with their families, some with an array of things, and others had left their families and things outside. So this is description about the Vaikuntha Vasis. So in the previous verse, that how Lord is, particularly they are glorifying that opulences of the Lord, and here it is mentioned about Vaikuntha Vasis. Some Vaikuntha Vasis were entering the Lord's kingdom with their children, wives and servants. Some rode in their own vehicles and carried their own umbrellas, chamaras and weapons. That means, just like in modern society, it is considered to have maybe mega big house of 6 bedrooms, and each bedroom will have their own television. So here also, some of the Vaikuntha Vasis, they were going with their families in one aeroplane. So, but some of the Vaikuntha Vasis, they were although family members, but everyone had their own aeroplane, their own umbrellas, their own, paraphernalia and their entourage. Others choose to keep their families and baggage outside the gate of Vaikuntha. स्वस्मिनेव विलाप्यैके कृत्स्नं परिकरं निजम् अकिञ्चन इवैकाकी तया ध्याना रसाप्लुताः. Some had absorbed all that they had into themselves, and like beggars without possessions, they came alone, immersed in the modes of devotional meditation. So some completely renounced Nishkinchana. Nishkinchana, Prabhupada, today morning I was hearing in Prabhupada lecture, one who is completely disgusted with material opulence, disgusted with material world, he is called as Nishkinchana. So there were some like that. Although Akinchana word comes here, Akinchana Ivaikaki, Akinchana or Nishkinchana, both are same. So, although this opulence in Vaikuntha is not material opulence, and it is not against devotional principles to have them, because like we saw in the 32nd first verse, I mentioned all the ornaments, whatever, everything which they wear, possess is meant for the pleasure of the Lord, because there is nothing in Vaikuntha which is meant for the personal sense gratification. So it's not against devotional principles to have them, possess them, but some people, they choose to be like that. But this is very rare in Vaikuntha actually, because that whole atmosphere is full of opulences. You must find such people in Vrindavan, but okay. The Vaikuntha devotees who preferred a more meditative mood of service hid within their own transcendental bodies the families and property Lord Narayana had awarded them. So the devotee is arriving. So the point here is material possessions. Why those who are spiritualists, they like to give away their material possessions, get rid of material possessions, because they are distractions in spiritual advancement. Brahmana is supposed to be very simple living, very renounced, even if he is a grahastha also. And voluntarily they choose to be poverty stricken actually. So voluntarily they choose to remain in poverty. Prabhupada used to tell that story of that Brahmana in the kingdom of Raja Krishna Chandra. Krishna Chandra is a king of Sena dynasty which ruled Bengal. So from 1200 onwards, I think. So he went to a Brahmana and they had some discussion. And then in the end, this king said that you live in a very simple way, why don't you, I would like to offer you something, why don't you take like that, So he had maybe house of some thatched hut maybe, water leaking. So he said, no, I am happy. So my disciples go and beg some rice, and my wife cooks them with some imli leaves from the backyard. Not even dal also. Maybe he may be getting some maybe sourness just for the sake. Some sourness. No spices also. Just some little imli leaves. So I am happy, he says. So voluntarily, Prabhupada used to say, this is Indian culture, he said. This whole modern society is so adharmic, and asuric actually. Idam labda, maya labda. Today I accumulated this much, tomorrow will accumulate. Whole modern economic system. Economy is asuric actually. It's not dharmic actually. So we'll discuss on that more in Janmashtami day. So adharmic. So that was Vedic culture. Indian culture was like that. Voluntarily. So you can see the top higher rung of the society. Either whether you take sannyasis who are on the highest rung of the society, or brahmanas, even though they may be grahasthas. So they voluntarily choose to remain in poverty, simple living and high thinking, renounced. Because material possessions means they are hindrance to spiritual advancement. They are distractions. So just to have them, if they may not be something sensual, sense enjoying, object of sense enjoyment. You may have some laptop actually, but anxiety will be there always. Oh, someone may take away this laptop like that. I may lose this. Like other day I was lamenting, oh, I am setting up this library, but someone may come and take away my books. So, so in this way, possessions means it's distraction. So therefore, brahmachari is trained to live very simple with no possessions. It's a training there. Then when the training is complete, he becomes a brahmana. So some of these people, because they thought in meditation these will be distraction, where is my child going, where is my wife going, and all these kind of things, or all these ornaments, how they are looking and all. So they absorbed everyone inside their body. So the devotees arriving in Vaikuntha were full in all powers and showed the full range of devotional variegatedness in their pastimes of worshipping the Supreme Lord in perfect ecstasy. So I told that actually this kind of people who are meditative, they are very rare, but it's also part of Vaikuntha's opulence, in the sense that there is variety there actually. There are variety of people, not only those who show their opulence, there are people who don't like to show their opulence. If there is no variety, it's just like in Mayavad, it will be impersonal, everything. Text 36. Kechid vichidra rupani dhritva muhu vichitra bhushana kara viharadhya manoharaha. Some assume different forms at different times with all kinds of ornaments, bodily features and ways of acting, all exceedingly attractive. So, Kechid Vichitra Rupani, sometimes they Vichitra, astounding, forms they assumed. Dhritva, muhu. Means again and again, muhu means. So, Vichitra Bhushana, Anakhara. So they had different kinds of ornaments and which are very astonishing, and different kinds of bodily features. So like that they had, maybe with lots of muscles, like that. So everything what we see in the material world, it is there in its purest form. So what is the purpose of all these things? Ultimately it is for the purpose of worshipping the Lord, to please the Lord, to Lord Vaikuntha, Lord of Vaikuntha. So the Vaikuntha devotees not only acted in many different ways, but also assumed many different forms, including even those of animals, birds, trees. Some devotees would show one form for some time and then change into another. So here another point to understand is that this question is raised, can we change our rasa actually? Yeah, you can change your rasa. But if Krishna wants, if it is pleasing to Krishna, that is the central point. The pleasure of Krishna is the central point. So text 37. Kechin nara vanarascha deva daityascha tatarshayah pare varnashamachara diksha lakshana dharinah. Some appeared as humans, some as monkeys, demigods, demons or sages. Some bore the signs of persons initiated into the behavior of the Varnashrama system. You can see here, Varnashrama is there in the spiritual world also. It's not just meant for the material world actually. So why it is there? Because that is a social system there, and it is meant for the pleasure of the Lord actually. It increases the rasa. How it increases the rasa? Just like that Madhu Mangala, that laddu eating Brahmana boy in Vrindavan, So he says to Krishna, "Oh, I will bless you," because he is a Brahmana boy. Brahmana means blessing is one of duty actually. Krishnas, they carry the mercy of Krishna. So, and Krishna has appeared as covered boy, Vaishya boy. So he always gives blessings. I will bless you to get an audience of Radharani if you give me laddu, like that. So in this way, we see that there is, in Krishna's pastimes, there is Varnashrama. It increases rasa in the pastimes. The residents of Vaikuntha are in fact purely transcendental persons. The substance of their bodies is unalloyed, Satchidananda. So these residents never belong to human or any other material species, nor to the limited designations of varnas and ashramas. Still, for the Supreme Lord's pleasure, they may assume or relinquish any form at any time. Some of them therefore appeared before Gopakumara, like members of Vedic society wearing the signs of particular ashramas and varnas. All these signs of varnas and ashramas are given in the which canto of Bhagavatam? They are given in the 7th canto of Bhagavatam. So what should be the external appearance of brahmachari, what kind of cloth he wears, and all these kind of things. Some wore sacred threads like initiated brahmanas, indicating that they chanted mantras for worshipping the Lord, and they carried kusha grass and kamandalos in their hands, wore tulasi malas on their necks, and had tilak on their foreheads. Indra chandradi sadrashas trinetras chaturananaha chaturbhuja sahasrashah kechid ashtabhujastata. Some look like Indra, Chandra and other demigods. Some had 3 eyes and 4 heads and 4 arms, or 8 or 1,000 faces. Our scientific friends would be astonished to hear this. Someone having 1,000 heads. But they are foolish. Why? Because they think that anything which does not suit to their common sense does not exist. Is not a very strong argument actually, because our common sense is limited. So our scientific friends, they created a self-imposed restriction or defect actually in their epistemology. Nature, observable world is all in all, and if you know the laws of physics, of the physical world, then we know everything. So it's a self-imposed restriction which leads to defective knowledge. We will discuss more on this. So because our experience and our sense perception is not perfect, so therefore we are, like in Indian languages we say, digging their own fit, actually, basically, what they did. So, so in this way, they dig the fit of science, actually. So, and the science got buried in that. Science got buried in that, actually. Some of the Vaikuntha residents look like the king of heaven, Indra, with 1,000 eyes on their bodies and thunderbolt weapons in their hands. Others appeared like the gods of the moon, sun, fire, and wind. These demigods headed by Indra are not actually incarnations of the Supreme Lord like Shiva and Brahma, who are especially empowered guna avatars. If required for service to Lord Narayana, the Vaikuntha Vasis can assume the exact forms of ordinary demigods. But empowered incarnations and direct expansions of Narayana, such as Ananta Shesha, the Vaikuntha Vasis can only emulate to the extent of copying certain of their bodily features. So, here this commentary says that one may become demigod, but certain positions are fixed. Shiva's position is fixed. Nobody else can become Shiva. And all other Krishna's avatars and incarnations, even among the Jiva Tattvas, certain positions are fixed. Like Devaki's position is fixed. Not that another woman will become a Devaki, or Yashoda, Nanda. So like that. You may emulate their feelings, their mood we can develop, but we cannot take their positions. That we should remember. Ye tat parama vaichitri hetum vakshami te gratah Krishna bhakti rasasvadha vatam kimsyanna sundaram. Later I shall explain to you the reason for this extreme variety of appearance. For those who enjoy the moods of devotion to Krishna, anything not beautiful. Later I shall explain to you the reason for this extreme variety of appearances. For those who enjoy the moods of devotion to Krishna, is there anything not beautiful? So here Gopakumara tells to his hearer, that one Brahmana who was hearing from him, that he will explain about why such appearances were there. And the second thing is, although this kind of extreme appearances were there, but still they were very beautiful. In Vaikuntha, the liberation of Sarupya, having a form similar to that of Supreme Lord, is available to everyone. We may reasonably expect, therefore, that all the Vaikuntha residents should have 4 arms and look like Lord Narayana. Why then did some of them look like humans, monkeys, and all other sorts of other forms of life? So, this question is raised, in the purport, in the commentary, that if Sarupya Mukti is there, then they should look like Narayana. Why they have such different forms like that? Gopakumara later heard from Narada Muni the definitive philosophical explanation for this variety, and in the course of the present narration, Gopakumara will relate that to his own student. But even granting that there is a reason for varieties of bodies in Vaikuntha, why should Lord Narayana devotees assume ugly bodies like those of monkeys? In response, it may be said that we know from common worldly experience that anyone who has intense attraction to something cannot help but see that thing as beautiful, no matter what it is. This is also true on the spiritual level. Otherwise, why Would the Supreme Lord and his devotees be so attracted to persons like Hanuman and Jambavan? So like this, there are different questions. Okay, we'll stop here. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Any questions, comments?